Hello and welcome. I'm so happy to be having you with me today for a live video demonstration. Finished getting all set up here. So as you come in, I would love for you to say hello and check out everybody else that's here and be able to say hi. I see Joanne is here. Hi. Hey, Joe. I want to give a disclaimer in advance because my kids and I all have a cold, and it's affecting my voice, and I'm coughing, and I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss today because it's really important. Hi, Anne-Marie. Hi, Betty. Good morning. So I don't have any happy mail to share with you this week. I'm going to need to keep this live video a little bit more short, and plus it's going to have some coloring, so that tends to take a little bit of a longer time. Hi, Sharon. How are you today? Or this evening. How are you this evening? I'm so glad that all of you are stopping in to spend some time with me today. So I have this card on my blog today. This is created with the Better With You stamp set, and I did not make a video tutorial for this because this was something that is created late at night. Oftentimes after the boys go to bed, I will go back into my studio and get some more work done, especially if they go to bed at 7 p.m. That really helps. Hey, Marcy, I'm happy to see you today. Throwing you a big kiss. Mwah. All the way to Canada. So this card is created on Whisper White, except for the area of the stamped image, and that is watercolor paper. One of the things that I hear and feedback from you all is the fact that you love to see watercolor painting done, but are not comfortable with it. So I want to offer some alternative coloring methods for, like, I don't want anyone to see this type of a stamp set and feel discouraged that they wouldn't be able to use it to whatever their utmost abilities are. Everybody has different abilities. We're all like, it's not like everybody is like a cupcake, because cupcakes fit into a mold and they're all the same when they come, you know, when you pour them in. But cookies, on the other hand, cookies always come out individually different. So that's why I look at everybody's abilities as we all have our own abilities, but it's like a cookie. It's a different, you don't have the same amount of chocolate chips in every single cookie. Everybody has a little something different to offer. So I want to help you feel comfortable with this type of an open line drawn stamp set and give you some alternatives. So again, this is the card that's on my blog today, and I followed the color scheme of one of the challenges that I entered it into, and it was blue, yellow, and gray. So normally I wouldn't color a bird exactly these colors, but you know, I tried to stick with the challenge, and it ended up working out this way. So I really, really like this stamp set. It's very, very much exactly something that is in my comfort zone. But is it in your comfort zone? Please tell me. Let me know. I would love to hear what you think about this. So I'm going to recreate a card. Oh, I'm going to create another card today with you, and I'm going to use one of my favorite designs. I know if you follow my work, you probably see a lot of the one particular or a couple of designs repeated over and over. And that's because there's one that is in my comfort zone that I really like. So I guess the keyword today is comfort zone. But I'll give you a closer look at this card. I'm not sure how far I can raise it up before it starts leaving focus. So the bird is colored with ink from stamp pads and my aqua painter. And I stamped it with gray granite ink. Or maybe it's smoky slate. Those two are so close to one another that it's hard for me to be able to tell. Although I do think it's gray granite because I can see on the birch, I created it to be a birch, that it looks like diluted a little bit more like gray granite. Betty, you like it too. I'm really glad to hear that. Okay, so for this project today, I'm going to recreate one of my designs with the layering squares framelits dies to make a frame, out of a panel of cardstock. And you'll see as we go along how this card is going to progress. So this is a piece of Whisper White cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This is going to be an A2. This is a piece of thick. Thank you, Anne Marie. Thanks, Sharon. I appreciate that, guys. And this is a piece of thick, heavy cardstock. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a frame right in the middle, and then we're going to make a partial die cut to move it down and cut the remainder of the rectangle. So I'll be grabbing the Big Shot, and I'm going to put it on camera today because I want you to be comfortable with seeing exactly what it looks like to do this. So I might need to maneuver a few things here to make sure that it's in the camera. I think it is. If I need to make any adjustments, just let me know. So I'm adding my piece of cardstock, and I have a standard Big Shot sandwich, which includes the base plate, a thin die adapter, which is part of the base plate. When you purchase your Big Shot from Stampin' Up, you get this. This is the new plate and the thin die adapter. And I've got a relatively clear looking plate, cutting plate. They never stay very clear for long, do they? All right. So the way that I work out exactly where I'm going to place this is I would like to have, oh, and by the way, this is the second to the largest of the layering squares. Excuse me. The largest layering square is this one here. As you can see, I keep my scalloped and straight edged separated tied together with a ribbon. Otherwise, they kind of go crazy. But this is the second to the largest, and I would like to have an equal amount of space on the sides as I do on the top. So that will determine exactly where I want to place the square. And I usually don't measure it. I just use it by eye. I'll look at it and see where does it look. So I'm going to turn this to where I'm looking at it directly. And to me, that seems like it's in the middle. Maybe come up just a little bit. And I'm going to secure it in place with a little piece of washi tape. And I didn't get that ahead of time, so I'm grabbing it now. So using a piece of washi tape, I first put it on my hand to take some of the tackiness off of it. That way it won't stick down to the paper and tear the paper. So that's a trick that a lot of people probably use. I'm carefully going to turn this and make sure that the die is touching the tape as well as the cardstock. And then you could cut this, you could turn it upside down if you feel comfortable with it being cut from the cutting edge up, but I don't. So I'm going to leave it there, and then we'll do the die cut. So partial die cutting is something that can really help you stretch your supplies. And I'm going to completely run this through, and I'm going to run it back again only for the sole purpose that I won't be able to remove the plate over there because I have my video stand and the light. So there's no way that I could get the plate this thing is only going to come out this way. All right. So what I've got here is a nice looking square of thick Whisper White cardstock that I'm going to use for something else. So here's the important part. Here's the part where people don't understand, and this is what I really would like to concentrate. So please do, if you have any questions, I want you to feel comfortable with asking them. This is going to move down, and we're going to measure exactly the same on this end. In fact, we can turn this around if you like. So I want to get that same amount of comfortable space on the sides as on the top. Now, the way that I know that I'm going to get this to be a straight cut is the die has the cut edge there, okay? And once I put it in this channel of where it was already die cut, it kind of plops into place. And you can see I'm putting pressure on it, but it's not moving. So if I slide this down just enough to where I get it into the right place, and I feel that it's in that channel, it's in the groove of the first die cut, then this will help me be able to know that I've got it in the right place. And now I can make that other die cut, and it's not going to affect anything down here because it's on the right cutting line. So again, I want you to ask any questions if you have them as we go. And then I'll run it back through because this is the only way I can get it out. I have my equipment over on the other side. Otherwise, I would only do one pass. And now I have a nicely cut frame area of my cardstock, and I will discard my little die. And I have another piece of Whisper White cardstock that I can use for something else. I oftentimes use these for sentiments. And I carefully remove this so that it doesn't tear, because this is what I'm going to use on the card front. If you're just joining in, please take a moment and say hi so that everybody can say hello back. If you'd like to say where you're from, then that would be cool too. So here's the frame. And I'm going to use a card base that is top folded, and it is in the landscape mode. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Pardon me. And I'll be using some designer series paper for this project. So last week when we were together, we used this pack of paper, and in fact it was this particular piece with the roses on it. And the name of this paper is Petal Promenade. Now it tells us on the back, as a lot of people already know, I'm not giving anything that is not already information we don't know. But just in case you hadn't noticed, the names of the colors of matching ink and cardstock are right on the back. So if you need to know what's going to match a piece that's in this pack, just turn it over and have a look. It's also great as a color inspiration. Maybe someone needs to know and has an idea that a color would go, but maybe not. And this is a wonderful way of using suggested colors. The piece that I'm going to use is this piece right here. Now this is a really, really busy piece of paper, and it has this beautiful look of marble on the back. So coarse marble is always a great possibility to use, but I'm creating this frame because I want to give the eye somewhere to rest while I really amp it up on the background. So I've cut this piece to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. You didn't know that about that, Betty? Okay, well, that's some information that is always good to have. In fact, whenever I have a package of pattern paper, one of the reasons that I keep it in the package like this until it completely falls apart is because I want all of this information together. So when I store my DSP in my craft supplies, I make sure that I keep it in the original package. If for some reason I cannot, then I cut it to 6 by 6 and I cut this piece on the back of this piece of paperboard and I make sure I include it. It's really important for me because I can just look here and know for sure. Hi Linda, how are you? Thanks for stopping in today. So this piece of Petal Promenade is gorgeous, but it's so pretty. What in the world can we use to balance out all that craziness? So it's not a secret that I really like to create clean and simple designs, and this is a beautiful piece of paper for me, but it's too much. It's overwhelming for me. But how about now? So now there's somewhere for the eye to rest. This gives a nice look of the pretty paper. Hi, Jana. But we have somewhere for the eye to rest. So that was my goal, totally, whenever I was thinking about how to use this paper and to use it in a design that I could use with the bird. So we have these beautiful little cabbages here, and I have another piece of the designer series paper that I wanted to show. This is like the neighboring piece that I cut whenever I cut my slice off of the big 12 by 12. So I've got this, depends on where, it kind of looks like it orients this way a little bit better. And of course this card design will fit perfectly if you turn it this way or this way. So you can go landscape or portrait. So let's move along with our little project here. I'm going to secure this piece down to the card base directly, and I'll be using some snail adhesive. So I'm going to add adhesive just in a couple of key positions so that I know that it's not going anywhere. There's going to be more adhesive over this, but for now this is fine. And this piece, hi there Fran, how are you? This piece is cut to 4 by 5 1/4. So it is 1/4 of an inch smaller than my card base. And that way, whenever I place my frame over it, no matter how this frame turns, the person receiving the card is not going to see the paper line. And then on the outside, this is cut to the same size as the card base. And so it's also not going to show the paper line. So for me, that's the magic formula, is 1/4 of an inch smaller. So now we know exactly kind of what design we're going to use. How do you place a stamped image on this? Well, of course, there's a couple of different options. You could add something with a very small stamp and just make one little tiny sentiment, which is what I am, I'm really attracted to doing that. But I want to demonstrate another way to be able to use this wonderful stamp set. So let's set this aside and pick up one of the pieces that we used. Now this is a wonderful piece of thick Whisper White cardstock. So thick Whisper White, all cardstock is precious, but thick Whisper White for me, I don't know what it is about it. I don't throw it, except the very, very smallest of pieces away. I keep them all in a little scrap bin, and sometimes I can make a card that's just using the scraps of something. It's amazing. And this is the stamp set that we're using again. If you joined us a little bit late, then we are showing another way to get into your comfort zone with a stamp that might not be your style. So we're going to have another idea on how to do this today. This is a really pretty floral image, but I don't want a floral on top of a floral. We did that last week, and it looked somewhat successful, but I would like to use the bird image today. So I'm going to stamp this beautiful bird onto this scrap, and I may have to turn it a couple of times to get it to where it's going to completely fit on there, but I think it can happen. And I'm using gray granite, even though gray granite is not one of the colors listed on the back of the DSP pack. I want to use a color that's a little bit more warm to balance out. And smoky slate and gray granite are not the same color. One is a warm gray and one is a cool gray. So here's my stamp. It fits on there barely, but with the magic of video, I have another one. And look, it's already fussy cut. So I'm going to lay this on top of here, and no, I won't. I'll save this for something else. Like I said, thick whisper white is precious. And I've got a little scrap. Whenever I use up my grid paper, I cut it into pieces, and I'm able to use it for just kind of like on the spot. You can see that this was used. I used it for a video a couple of days ago. So we're going to color this bird in with minimal colors. I want to show you what it would look like if we just used the bird plain, because I checked this out first, and I do think this would work. Having the bird just be very minimal like this, it works for me. I like it. But I know that there are going to be some questions from you guys that would be like, well, but it's a little bit too plain, so what can we do to it? So we're going to add just a hint of color to this lovely little bird. I'm not sure what kind of bird it is, but I do like him. Or we can make it a her if it's a very subtle colored bird. So I've gotten out all of my gray and brown markers that are Stampin' Blends. If you don't have any Stampin' Blends markers, then you could use any type of alcohol marker that you have on hand. Another type of alcohol marker would be Copic. So you can use whatever you have that is in your comfort zone. Because today the project is all about your comfort zone. So the very subtle coloring that I would add to this is only going to be in the shaded areas. I could really go crazy and just really like give this bird over the top coloring, but I don't think that would work out very well. I'm not drawn to having all of this crazy stuff going on over here in this design. Pardon me. And then having a bird that is the same. So I'm actively looking for the card again that I showed you, but it's disappeared. Nope, it's disappeared. So if I find it, I'll show it again. So let's get some color on this little guy here. I'm going to start out with very, very, very light coloring, and I want to use the brush end of the marker and not the bullet end. So I'll show you what the bullet end looks like. It looks about like this. And the brush end, if I use a very light hand, I can get it into a very thin line. So this is the reason that I'm going to use the brush end and use a very light touch. Using the grays, I can create some shadows that are in this particular image. So I want to, and knowing that these markers are going to bleed out, which is one of their wonderful properties, it's going to bleed out a bit. Now I will try to zoom the camera in on the coloring. It's not letting me. I apologize. But if you can't see something or have any questions, then please ask as we go along. So knowing where to add the shadows is just following the drawn line. I'm not going to have a shadow right on the front of the bird's breast, or on the highest point of the bird's wing, or on the top of the head. On the edge of the top of the head is where the natural shadow would lay over. So I'll start off by just using a very light touch. And I'm going to go along this stamped line on the belly, just to get used to what it is I'm looking at. And then I'll use the bullet end of my color lifter, and that's the clear one. And the bullet end will touch like halfway into the mark. I'll give you an example just so you understand it. I'm going to pretend like this is much smaller. This is the enlarged version. So I'm going to only activate like into a portion of the line that I first drew. So I'm going to lighten up that line only on the inside edge. And the color lifter is the perfect tool to be able to get this accomplished. So I don't want the back half of my line to get interrupted at all. It's only the inside line. And I can do that by just touching it slightly, and it will help to pull out that color. So now I have a natural curved line. Another way that I can use that is by seeing where the shadows are going to lay, and I'll add my color lifter first. And then I'll go back with my gray marker, and I'm going to use that brush end again and just dab it. I'm going to just dab it in, and because I put my color lifter in first, it's going to activate and pull the line out. So you can see that it's kind of bleeding towards the middle a little bit where I placed that line. And that's basically it. Now I can choose where I'm going to put the shadows and how much of the shadow to put. And because this is going to be a very simple colored image, then we can choose if we're going to do some browns or some grays. So I'm going to do just a very hint of brown on the tree or the branch. And the lightest brown that I have, this is the ivory marker, and it's more of a flesh tone, but I think that it would look more natural if it were the crumb cake, because it does carry the brown, and the ivory marker is almost like a vanilla. Oh, I wish we had a vanilla marker. Wouldn't that be grand? So I'm going to use the bullet end this time, because I'm not necessarily concerned with having the thinnest line ever. And I'm going to just color on the inside of the line against the bottom. And I'll do the same here. Going very, very simple. And then I want to also add something to the other side on this end before going with a color lifter. And I can use the long end or the bullet end. It's this point, it's up to the crafter. And I'm going to soften that line. Remember, I'm doing this in the same way, and I don't want that outside line to be disturbed. I would only want the portion that is facing the inside of the line art. So we have a hint of color here. This is not really a special coloring technique. This is very, very simple. It is easy for any level stamper to be able to accomplish. So far, as we can see, like if we slide this into our frame unit, then we've got some color, when before we had no color. So if anybody has questions, please, comments or questions, anything, then let me know you're here. We've been quiet for a while. So I'm going to continue on a little more with the gray shadows. This is a very tight cap. So the gray shadows I want to create now are going to be underneath this head area. And it doesn't have to be a solid shadow because the bird's feathers are definitely not going to be, they're not going to lay flat. And then I'm going to move this around and activate the color. I'm using small circular motions in order to pull that color down and out away from that solid line. So I'm just softening things up a bit. Then going back over this line here to soften it up a little bit as well. So are you starting to see how it's going to shape up? Then on the tail feathers, one is overlapping the other, so I will enhance the shadow there and then soften it up. Now this one I want to kind of spread the color around. So I'm using long strokes, and the whole area is okay to be filled in with color as long as it's light and faded. Softening up this line again here. I have another one over here where this wing is overlapping the other. So I'm doing the same process every time that I add a shadow, and then softening it up. And it looks like I could do that here as well. I'm going to be very careful and not touch that branch. Thank you for making a comment, Anne-Marie. That way I know you're still there. I do apologize for the wobble on my table. When I renovated my craft studio, I opted for a table from Walmart that was really, really affordable. But the bad thing about it is it's not sturdy. So literally I could move it, and it bothers me, but it was really, really affordable. And it went with all of the decor that I was working with. Everything is white in my craft room except for color, except for, you know, things like this that are color. And affordable is really important too. All right, so I think we've just about got enough color. I want to add a little bit to the top also. Hi, Donna. I'm glad you like the tips. All right, so to the top of the head and I guess around the mouth a little bit. I want there to be a balance of shadows and shading. So this image is still, it's very, very, very light. There's minimal coloring. It's a beautiful bird stamp that Stampin' Up has created. So if comfort zone is really important to you, remember that we are all cookies, not cupcakes. Cupcakes are made in a pan that is all the same, and cookies are different. We're all cookies, I think. And I need a little, get that open. I need a little bit more of a shadow line here to make sure that the image of the branch doesn't get carried into the image of the bird. Now when I run the color lifter, I'm not applying pressure at all. I'm just letting it touch the paper and move it around. No pressure whatsoever. I have been asked how many of these color lifters I go through, and I will tell you, every time I place a Stampin' Up order, there's quite a lot of them that I do use. So Betty, I'm reading that your comment is find a couple pieces of matching wood and brace the back in an X pattern, and it won't take away from, let me see, from the design. Ah, there you go. That would be nice. Betty, you always come up with the best design ideas. I love hearing your tips. So now this is a much more comfortable colored image that is, it doesn't take a lot of work, and it is not an elaborate watercolor like the first card that I shared with you that I'm still looking for and I can't find. But this is something that anybody of any skill level is able to accomplish. So let's put this together. And again, this is one of my favorite designs, and for a reason. So Donna says that she got a portable craft table. Ooh, portable. You can't use your sewing machine on it because it bounces so much and you can't sew a straight line. That is a really good point. Donna probably can tell you that a lot of sewing tables are very sturdy and they have a drop down where your sewing machine goes in order to keep a flush area where the sewing machine bed is. I don't do my sewing machine on this table either, because I agree with you. It would just be a sewing disaster unless you did a very thunk, 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 very slow stitch. But the table that I work on for my workspace is one of those very sturdy plastic tables that it has the metal legs that come down and it folds in half, and you can get it from one of the hardware stores or a big box store. It's very, very affordable. Yeah, it is funny when things start rattling around, Donna. I know exactly what you mean. So let's get this attached. So this is one of my favorite designs, and in this favorite design, I like to use the foam adhesive strips in order to put my frame together. So as a side note, I would like to mention that this is a great opportunity to create a shaker card. So we're going to create a foam area that also is the same way that you make a shaker card. So we've got these foam adhesive strips, and the way that I like to use them on this design, and everybody is different and everybody does things their own way. There's no wrong or right. It's just what works for you. I like to add a really, really solid layer on the sides, because that's where the pressure is going to come from when I mail this card to somebody. So I'm going to add, I use these strips quite a bit. So if you have never made, please put your hand up and make a comment if you've never made a shaker card. I know you can tear these, but I like to cut them. And I am leaving a little bit of space in between these because it's just not necessary for me to have it be completely closed in, because it's not a shaker card. Now, if I were going to make a shaker card, then what I would do is I would take this, I would make sure that these foam strips were completely butted up against one another like so, and I would push it into it before I made contact with the paper. So once you have it completely enclosed, then you can, of course, you have to put your window sheet on underneath this layer. You would have your clear plastic sheet on underneath this. And then this would be the area that seals in your shaker. And then you could put, oh, Anne Marie, you've never made one. I'm going to send you a shaker card, my dear. Okay? Oh, and by the way, I just sent out your cards that I had promised. I found them. My youngest son relocates a lot of my stuff, and it makes me crazy. But I will send you a shaker card. So now, because we're just going to use this in a framed design, I'm going to use these little strips to give me an even pressure. Here's my little trash bin. It's made from a leftover box bottom that went wrong. Sometimes when we make a project, it has another use. And this one it collects all my little trash and the little dimensionals. Pardon me. All right, so this is the part when I need to make sure that I get this on straight. So I will make sure, because this is the exact same size as the card base. So Sharon is saying that she has made one in a class with Cheryl, but you haven't attempted it at home. Oh, Sharon, I would love to see what you make. Be brave and try it. So I'm lining up the best as I can. So with this frame on top of the designer series paper, with it the paper being underneath, it gives my eye somewhere to rest. And that's one thing that I find very important, is that if I don't have anywhere for my eye to just sit down and have a rest, then it drives me crazy. That's just me personally. So here is our wonderful little bird, and I want the bird to be the same height as the frame, or I can like have it be recessed down inside. If I have it recessed, then the bird is going to hide on the inside, and to make it look natural, I would have to have that bird be down in here. But if I raise it up to be the same level, then I can have him partially come out of the card, which that design to me is much more appealing. Fran is saying that her daughter would want to make it like mine with the frame flowers, but put her bugs in it to shake. Oh, yeah, that would be nice. I like that idea, Fran. Thanks for sharing the video, Marcy. Adhesive, these foam adhesive strips, Sharon, are wonderful. I love them. I always check my adhesives whenever I place a Stampin' Up order. All right, so I want this bird to be exactly the same height as my frame. And I'm going to do that by using exactly the same adhesive. So I'm going to use this little piece that was left over, and I can even like kind of curve it a little bit. Is that the bug set that looks like real bugs, Fran? Because that is a very creepy stamp set. I got it and I used it because my kids like bugs, but I'm not a bug lady. I'm not all about bugs. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive. I just used a little piece of the snail here on this area here. And I'm going to place that inside so that when this frame makes contact, there it goes. Now it's going to hold up this branch and it won't be flying free. And I'm going to add a glue dot. This is the point where you can use liquid glue if you like to use liquid glue. I don't. And I'll use a glue dot to hold the bird in the bird area. So I haven't talked about what our sentiment is going to be. And I do have a sentiment planned. And I'm going to use one more of these glue dots. Wait a minute. Maybe I could have the tail stick up. No, it would never survive the mail. That's one thought that I always keep in mind is, will my postman be kind? And I cannot say realistically that my postman would be kind to my mail. So this part is okay. There's enough support here that, and this is thick whisper white too, remember, so I think we'll be okay in that respect. So in this stamp set, pardon me, there are some wonderful sentiments. So we're not finished with our card yet, but we're getting close. This stamp set is fantastic. There is no dies that go with it, and thus I fussy cut the bird. If you have one of those machines that cuts out I think it's called Scan and Cut. If you have one of those, then this would be a fantastic candidate for that type of scanner cutter thing. I do not. I have my scissors, and I really don't mind fussy cutting. It doesn't bother me a bit. I take my glasses off because I'm very nearsighted, and I just take my glasses off so I can get a real good look at the image, and I cut it out, and that's it. And oftentimes I'm taking the kids to some place, and I need to have something to do, and cutting something out is always, or coloring. All right, so for this sentiment, I got a strip of gray granite. And again, gray granite is not one of the colors listed on the DSP pack, but I felt like it needed a warm balance, and the greens are nice and lively. Fran, you do have the scan and cut because you have blurry vision. I understand that, and I have a lot of friends who have it exactly for that reason. That's what's so great about the dies, and lining up the dies can be tricky too sometimes. So we're going to use the sentiment that's here where it says good luck. And the stamp looks like this. But because I chose to heat emboss it, I did that beforehand because I didn't want to turn on the heat gun for this video. And we spent more time on the coloring, so that way we can spend less time on the little stuff. So I have this little tiny strip, and I think it is a 1/2 inch. Yes, it is a 1/2 inch wide. And I can place the sentiment somewhere, like it can go this way, and also help to break up some of those beautiful florals. Or I could place it down in this area. I could have it come, and I could use another punch, and I could have it come out this way. But I kind of like the look of how it goes off to the side. And I'm going to keep it up the same length, the same height, by using these foam strips again. So that's one way that if you use consistent adhesive in your project, then you'll get that cohesive look to where your design looks intentional. Although sometimes, we all craft on the fly. We all like our projects, I think, to look as professional as we can get them to look. Okay, so I'm going to cut this a little bit longer than what the frame is. And once I take off this strip, I'm going to bow it a little bit. Oh, thanks, Betty. Thank you, Anne-Marie. I'm going to bow it like this in my hand so that my paper doesn't make contact with this. I guess I could have put that on first, but this way works for me. And I'm sliding it up underneath the bird, and then sliding it up underneath the side. And I'm going to hold it straight on my grid paper and make sure that I get this as straight as I can. And if it's a little crooked, I think it'll be okay. This design is very forgiving. And that's pretty much going to do it for this version. Now, if I can find that other card, I know I just showed it to you guys and it disappeared. I do not understand how that is possible. I found it. I was gonna say, how do I do these things where I lose things? See, when I craft live, you get to see all the silly moments that I have versus whenever it's an edited video. Aw, thanks guys. So this is the same stamp. This is watercolored, and this is, this takes much longer than it does just to accent. This is a completely white space background with just that one image here, and I'll show it to you again. This is the pretty little, I don't know if you would call them dewdrops. I'll call them dewdrops. And flip the version, and we have a busy background, and we have still some place for our eye to rest. Now there is some little impressions made in the frame area that if I were making this off camera, I would put this piece of cardstock in between two others and run it back through my big shot and use clean plates, and that way, because this is from my cutting plates, that happens quite a bit, especially with thick Whisper White. Hi, Pat. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, this is a good one to add to your shopping list. It is a wonderful stamp set, but look at these sentiments. Now this is basic gray, and this is gray granite. And I stamped the bird in gray granite and did a lot of the shading coloring first. And I tried to get the bird to look, just like we colored it in here. I followed all of the natural shaded areas first. Oh, thank you, Fran. I do love a bird stamp. That's my weakness. When I see in the catalog it's got a bird, it gets me every time. And there is another bird that I haven't gotten yet. Sometimes I wait and I space out my purchases because I can only use so many new products at a time. And once I get a good feel for something, then I'll move on to demonstrate another something else so that my customers are seeing a good variety of what the products can do. So this is a wonderful stamp set. Because it's an individual stamp set, it has a really nice purchase price. It's not a bundle, it's just a stamp set. And it's a red rubber stamp set. And those are my favorite. So that is our project for today. The only thing that I have left on this card to do would be to finish off the inside of the card. And we could do that by using one of the other stamps that are in the stamp set. And let's try this this flower here that comes with the bird. And I haven't even used this one yet, so I'll just add it to the same block. And the one ink pad, this is all done with one ink pad except for the Versamark. Add it here to the inside of the card. And then that will go on the inside. Let's see, how did I work this one on the inside? Oh, I used the little dewdrops. And I'll find my liquid glue around here. This is the one exception that I use liquid glue. It's because I get it everywhere, and I know that I can use small amounts of liquid glue and it would help. But it just really, I've never been very adept with liquid glue my entire life, and I've been a crafter since I was born. Okay, here we go. And because I have the liquid glue, I can wiggle this paper just enough and be able to get it in the right place. And I only use the small dots so that the paper doesn't feel warped. So Anne is saying that she finds that if she purchases too much at one time, it's a little overwhelming. Yes, it can be. Getting in a brand new box of wonderful products from Stampin' Up is the best feeling. It really is. But sometimes it is a bit overwhelming, and so I space out my demonstrator orders. I'm going to burnish this just a little bit more on that fold so that it wants to lay down flat. And this could stand maybe a little seed bead or a sequin. And again, remember, this is the same formula to use for a shaker card. Excuse me. So you could make this, have that piece of acetate here, and this design could be adapted very easily to incorporate some sequins on the inside and be a shaker card. But it's also a great way to frame something. And when I use this frame design, oftentimes I will have a stamped image that will come up. Catherine wants to use this set for your Christmas. Oh, I love that idea, Catherine. And I did think the same thing. I have had some wonderful plans in mind, but I know there's also going to be some wonderful things that are going to be in the holiday catalog that is right around the corner. And that holiday catalog, I know it will be filled with wonderful stuff that I will feel just that warm and fuzzy feeling with as well. But we all have those moments. But yes, I like that this could be used. This looked more, using the birch or creating it as a birch. And the way I did that was just to take the aqua painter And I used the gray granite stamp pad and used it very diluted. And I just did very, very, very small, and it's very diluted ink. Very, very small tick lines almost. And that was it. That was the way that I made it look like birch. Because if it were going to be brown, it wouldn't stick with the color theme I was working on. But not only that, pardon me, I felt like it might take away from the overall effect of the card. So I put a whole lot of thought into the design when I'm creating a project. Because I'm creating this for you, and I want you to be inspired by it. But I want to send this off to somebody as well. Sharon, this is on your wish list too. I know. This was like the very top of my list. A little embossing powder on the branch for snow. Catherine, you are really sounding like you've got this all planned out. That's wonderful. I love these ideas. That is great. I did use a black journaling pen, and I'll show you what it looks like, to color the eye in on this bird. And of course, I don't think we should do that because we're carrying all those gray tones through on this bird. So if I were to make the eye colored in, then it would change it up again. Hi, Mary. You love watching. You've learned a great deal from me. Aw, thank you so much. I'm happy to share. This is the reason why I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And I would love to take a second and give you guys a little bit more background about me. I grew up in Texas, and my parents, both of them, were very crafty people. My father's passed away. And arts and crafts have always been a big part of my life. One of the first things that I ever did was I would paint, of course. And then I would, just get some scraps that my mom had worked on for making some of our clothes. And I would use those to trace out letters. And then I would hand stitch just with a running stitch and create like 3-dimensional puffy pillow letters. I remember making that. I don't remember what I spelled out, but I do remember that making that in particular. And as I grew up, I have done just about every kind of craft that I can ever think of. So right out of high school, I went to work at an international shipping company, and I spent a 20-year career in the international shipping industry. And I learned a lot about business there. But I met my husband about 10 years ago, and my life changed completely. And Fran used to do woodwork. See, we can apply our crafting ingenuity to so many different things, and that's one of the things that's so attractive about card making. So once I met my husband is a pastor for the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and he is not able to say, I'm going to go move here. Instead, it's the other way around. They receive a call, and that's with a capital C, and that means that it's a divine call, and they go to where they're placed. So I left my home in Texas, and I moved to New Jersey, where my husband is, and we were married, and we started a family by adopting children at birth. We have 2 sons. They are now 7 years old and 5 years old. My oldest son is Trip, and he's the one that you hear at the end of the video where he says, "Hi, my name is Trip." And both of my boys have extensive disabilities. Whenever a child is adopted, of course, they can give you some background about a child, but they can't tell you at birth if a child has a particular cognitive disability. And both of my boys have cognitive disabilities, meaning that it's mental, that it affects their brain, and then sometimes it affects their body too. Like Trip has a lot of mobility problems as well. He has fetal alcohol syndrome. Excuse me, though, I've got a cold, and that affects a lot of his motor abilities. And it affects his speech. And Nathaniel, he doesn't have the same set of disabilities. He has autism, but he also has some other brain damage issues. And he's just been learning how to speak for the first time at the end of last year. And he's now 5 years old. So, and he has his own, everybody is unique. But anyways, one of the reasons why I became a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator is I could be able to build a business that would work around my family's needs, because my family needs me very much. But I also need to have something in my life that is just for me, and that I'm still feeling like I'm working and contributing to my household income. So I work very, very long hours around what my family's hours are. And this is where, my children and my family are my passion, but card making is my creative passion. And part of that is teaching. I was almost a teacher. That's almost a career path I took, but instead I had opportunities that I took upon in my life, and it gave me a wonderful career. And this is basically my second career. And whenever I learned that I could craft for a living and be able to help other people learn, I was sold. And from that point that I became a demonstrator, then I have built a team of people that have come to me on their own, because I don't go out and grab people to be on my team. They have all come to me, and I have been blessed beyond measure to have so many people come into my team and just they're wonderful. And we're a great support system for each other, and we have fun, and we have some fun personalities, and we're very well balanced. Thank you guys. And there is a wonderful supportive vibe in my team, and we're nationwide. We don't sit down at a table together. We are across the country, and we do everything online. So it's a wonderful way for us to connect, and we send a lot of mail around to each other, and we're just it's great. So I don't actively go out and say that, oh, hey, I want you to join my team. I present the opportunity to people, and it's a wonderful way to be able to bring people together. Thank you guys. Thanks, Anne Marie. Thank you, Fran. Those kids are my own. Those are my babies. They came straight from the hospital to my house, and we tell stories about how on the day you came home, this was going on, and this is what you wore, or with my youngest son, we actually went to the hospital to pick him up. And, we talk about when we went to the hospital to pick you up, we were driving this, and it was a sunny day, and you were a tiny baby, and we show him the clothes that he was wearing in the NICU and stuff like that. So those are my babies. They're my babies for life and beyond. So that's some background about me and my family, and I like to have, right, I don't have a South Jersey accent, and I don't have a heavy Texas accent, because whenever I start talking really fast, you'll hear the Texas come out. But whenever my regular speaking voice is more neutral, because I worked in the international shipping industry for so many years. I was exposed to so many different accents from all over the world, and I would speak to people from everywhere. And a lot of that work that I did in my past prepared me for being able to build international relationships that I use to my advantage now. So I work with a business partner in Canada, which is Marcy, and she could still be watching now, who I love dearly. We work together very closely, and she's a very important part of my life and my business. And also with Cheryl Miller, who's in Australia. So together, the three of us help each other in our businesses, and we don't have overlapping markets, but we are able to support each other. And it's nice to be able to have that support, and with our team members as well, to have that nice support there also. So thanks for letting me talk about myself today. I do want to mention also that, hey, I'm glad you're still here, Marcy. I do still have my Color Club running. The Color Club will run for 16 months. There is a faster track if you want to follow the Color Club on a faster track to where you can accumulate all the new colors. You can do it, it'll double up and be done in 8 months instead of 16. But I did 16 because that's an affordable number for everybody. And it's not always easy for everybody to afford to be able to say, hey, I need every single stamp pad that's new color. I need all of the ink refills. I need all the color cardstock, and I'm going to get it all right now. Well, that's not affordable. So that's why I developed the Color Club. Also, I want to mention that if you go over to my blog at jennystampsup.com, I have a number of tutorials that are there. You can get a tutorial for free by being on my team. My team gets every single tutorial I do. And believe me, there's lots of tutorials I never talk about. But every tutorial that I do, my team gets for free. And then there are the tutorials that you can get them for an online class where I send you the cardstock if it's an active class. It's active for the month that it comes out. So I will send you the card kits, and you'll get the tutorial for free if you purchase the product focus, which is the bundle. It's usually a die and stamp set. But if you're a demonstrator and you want to purchase your own products and your own cardstock, there is a way for you to be able to get my classes. You can outright purchase the classes, all of them. I do a paper pumpkin every single month. There's paper pumpkin alternatives. There's technique tutorials, and there are product-based tutorials. So you can go and check all of those out. jennystampsup.com. Click on tutorials and go over to tutorials page. And that's one way that you can help support me, and I do appreciate your support. It helps me to be able to bring all of these classes to everybody and all of the videos that I love to help everybody learn. Also, if you go to my blog, pardon me, there is a tab for retired products. So all of the stamp sets and the products that they expire, like if they retire and they're not sold anymore, then I sell them for a deeply discounted rate. And we have recently added quite a number of things to that website. So you can go there and click on there, and you can purchase it straight from the website if you're in the United States. If you're not in the United States, you cannot purchase my retired products, but you can purchase my online classes. So most of them have U.S. imperial measurements, but they can easily be converted into metric. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. And if you have any questions after the fact, and if you're watching this as a replay or watching it on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment, and I would love to be able to come in and help you in any way that I can. And I love my YouTubers. I love you guys. And if you have any questions at all, then I read every single comment. And when there's a question, I reply to it. But unfortunately, I get a high volume of comments, and I don't reply to every single one of them like as soon as they're made. So I do read them all. And if a question is posed, or I try to just write a little something, and then I go in and give a heart for every one of them. So thank you guys. Today, again, any questions, just leave them. Have a good day too, Betty. Have a good work day. Thank you all, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.